Hey everybody, this is Chris with Overclockersclub. We've got a cool new case here from Corsair. This is the 2500X from Corsair. I'll get all the protective plastic peeled off here in a minute. I usually start by going over the details of what's on the box, but the box didn't really have anything on it, which is a departure from what I usually see on the Corsair boxes, which is fine. But there's nothing on the box, so I'll just cut straight to looking at the case itself and getting it immediately out of the packaging material. But I'll go over the details here. This is also available in white, and there are a few other cases in the series. Let's take a real quick overview. So we've got a 2500D Airflow, which is $159. It is available in black or white. We have a 2500X, which is what this case is. You can see it has the glass panels. It is also available in black or white, so $159 for the black, and it looks like the white is the same price. Then we have a 2500X RGB, which, as you can imagine, has a lot of the RGB effects, and it is also available in black or white. And it looks like the price is the same either way, $219.99 for that one. Okay, so we will focus on the 2500X. Again, that's what we've got today. So let's get started. Okay, I'll get the plastic peeled off here. And there's usually plastic on the inside and the outside. But glass is, it lets you see everything that's going on in the case. The only bad thing is there's so much reflection. You have to pretty much remove the glass anytime you want to show any detail on the inside. And something else to point out, this is a micro ATX case. So if you've got an ATX full-size motherboard, you'll need to go the next size up, and I'll show that too. They do have a larger series. And while we're talking about that, I'll just go ahead and show it. So it's the 6500 series. So this one here, for example, is a 6500X RGB. So you've got the RGB effects. It is available in black and white. So $269 for the black, $269.99 for the white, and they have different flavors of it also. They've got a 6500D Airflow, 6500X, and a 6500X RGB. So if you've got a full-size motherboard ATX, then this is the case you would want to go for. Now for removing the side panel, there are two little retained fasteners back here, thumb screws that are easy to remove. And I'm always a little paranoid first time I try to remove a glass panel if I'm not entirely sure how it comes off. Okay, so it pops off, looks like it rocks forward. And yeah, you can see it's got some slots here, and they fit onto these tabs that stick up. So when you put it back on, it looks like you drop it down over those, center it, and then rock it in, push it in at the top. Okay. And they're usually a little stiff at first. If you take the cover off and on a few times, it starts to loosen up, and we've got a ball detent kind of stuck under the plastic here. There we go. So that's what's locking in at the top. Get all that plastic off of there. I'm going to set this down for the moment so we can start to look on the inside. And I think there's some plastic on the inside of the front panel here too. Yeah. All right, so let's take a quick look inside. So you can see this is a dual chamber design. So the main chamber here is sort of L-shaped. And then we've got the secondary chamber in the back there where the power supply and hard drives would mount. Over here we've got a nice area for fans or a radiator, 240 millimeter radiator. And looks like we've got some other fasteners in there, so I have to figure out how everything comes apart. It's got a nice mesh top for airflow, and it looks like we've got mounting provisions there for fans or top mounted radiator. On the back here we've got some slots where you can put a fan. It looks like a 120 millimeter fan, and you can slide that fan up or down if you need to. We've got our slots for our expansion slots for PCIe, and it looks like, let's let's see. So this entire panel comes out. I'll have to break that loose. I was looking to see if this had a provision for a vertical GPU, but I do not see any. I don't see any mounting provisions for that. Let's see, the I/O on top looks like a power button with a looks like a lighting effect around it. And then there's your speaker jack, USB-C, a couple of other USB ports, and this is probably a reset button, I'm going to assume. Get that off of there. And let's see. Should be a back panel. Let me swing this around and get that back panel off. Actually, before I do that, let me tip it up on the side so we can look at the bottom. So we've got a, okay, so there's a full bottom filter panel that is easily removable for cleaning. It covers the whole bottom. And you can see we've got mounting provisions here for 120 millimeter or 140 millimeter fans, or a radiator you could put here in the bottom and pull air in from the bottom. Looks like we've got some other things going on there. I'm going to pull the manual up, and a lot of those manuals now are available online. You don't actually get a paper copy. So let me take a look at that. We've got nice rubber feet, actually 6 rubber feet to keep the case from sliding around on the floor, plus the rubber offers a little bit of vibration dampening also. That's about it on the bottom. And I also just realized this entire back panel is mesh. So let me get it removed. There we go. Pops out the same way the glass does. But you can see right through it. It's a fine mesh. So that's nice. That'll definitely help out with airflow. And let's move the camera around. So again, this is the back side where a radiator or fans would mount. And then this is the secondary chamber. Your power supply would fit in this chamber here. There's your I/O cables. We'll look at those a little later. I've got an older micro ATX motherboard that I will do a quick system build on this case. So let's see. All right, this panel. Oh, okay. I know why this comes out. So we've got mounting provisions for a couple of 2.5-inch solid state drives. That's what those are for. I'll have to get those knocked out of there. And my guess is this front panel here comes off also. Okay, so now I'm at a point where I want to see how much of the case I can disassemble. Before I do that, though, let's take a look at some of the slides from the Corsair website that give some more information and details, and then we'll look at the case specifications, and then we'll be right back and see how much we can dig into this case. All right, on to the slides, and I pulled this information directly from the Corsair website. The first thing we'll look at here, this shows that it is a dual chamber design, which we already know. The blue on the right is where all the action happens with your motherboard and your graphics card, hard drives, all that good stuff. The left is where your cables are all hidden and routed, keep them out of view, which is really nice. The next one here, now this is interesting. This shows the reverse connector. Some motherboards now have this ability. It's called a reverse connector motherboard. Compatible with ASUS BTF and MSI Project Zero motherboards. Basically your 24-pin power connector, as well as looks like some SATA ports are on the back of the motherboard, or USB I should say. Maybe that's USB and SATA. I haven't seen one of these motherboards yet up close, so I don't know exactly what the limitations are, but it looks like if I do get one, this case would be perfect to mount it in and take advantage of that functionality. Next here we'll look at the cooling, the layout for the fans and the radiators. You can see the blue is for your 140 millimeter fans, the yellow is for your 120 millimeter fans, and then the white shows the different sizes of radiators and where they can be located. It's kind of nice that you can put up to a 360 millimeter in the bottom floor of the case. I don't see too many people mount them that way, but at least you have that option if you want. Next, we've got a personalization kit that you can purchase for these cases. You can get some wood grain panels, Actually, I can show that here. Okay, the next slide. These are the accessories that are available for the case. So again, you can see the panel kits. It looks like you don't get all of the panels. You have to specify which one you want, but they've got like a brushed aluminum and then some sort of a pattern. I don't know if that's carbon fiber or what that is. Then there's some wood grains that are available if you want to go that route. I actually like the case in just black or white, but these are kind of interesting. Next, we've got a rapid route retrofit kit. It's for, let's see, it says simplify cable routing. So you get 2 extra cable management bars and some zip tie points. Okay, so this is the vertical mount kit, and I'll show that, or at least I'll show where it mounts. I don't have the kit, but basically the back panel of the case where your PCIe slots are, it removes, and you put this different version in here, and it looks like it allows you to do a vertical GPU. Next, we've got a glass conversion kit. That's for your 2500D. This is the 2500X that we were looking at now. And then there's a motherboard cable cover. So if you want to help with your cable management and routing, you've got that extra accessory that you can purchase. Okay, so now next, this is your I/O panel. I already sort of showed that on top. You can see in more detail here what's going on top of the case. And then here's the specification sheet. Now this covers all 3 of the cases in the series, the 2500D Airflow, the 2500X, which is the center column, highlighted in yellow there at the top, and then the 2500X RGB. You can see the cases are all the same size. It talks about the included fans. It looks like the 2500X RGB is the only one that comes with fans from the factory. It talks about your cooling layout for your fan locations, radiator compatibility, motherboards. These are all mini ITX or micro ATX. Then your storage clearances. So everything else is pretty much the same regardless of which case you get. And then down at the bottom we've got a 2-year warranty. Okay, we are back, and one thing that's nice is this top piece here comes off, so you just grab this little fabric tab that sticks out and you pull up and it releases. It's got the little ball detents here and the 2 little receivers. But this is the mesh panel that goes on top. You can see it's pretty well ventilated. And something to mention, on the front end of it, you've got these 3 little tabs, these little plastic tabs, and they fit into 3 little slots up here. So you just want to be careful when you reassemble this that you sort of put the tabs there into the slots and then drop it down, and then it snaps in. You just want to be careful when you're removing it that you don't get carried away, put too much force, and you break the tabs off. Okay, so the next thing, there are actually 2 screws back here that I've already removed. So this entire panel here just slides forward and comes out. So everything, all of your cables, let's see, yeah, all of your cables will come out. We're going to leave them on there because I really don't want to fish them through there, but this comes out if you want to remove it. And let's see, the next thing, I took out the screws here. There's a screw right here and a screw right here, these little small screws. And when you take those out, it allows you to pop the front door off. Now it sort of hinges a little bit, but it's not a real hinge, so it will come off. So you just lift up and this entire glass panel comes off. If you need to get a little more access to the front, so that sort of leaves this section here hanging out in the open. And there are some places on the case that are riveted and you're not really supposed to be taking them off. So it looks like this part of the chassis stays together. Now this section here can be removed. There are 2 screws. There's one down here at the bottom, and then there's one at the top. And when you take these out, that should allow this entire panel here to be removed. see how that comes off. Oh, there it goes. Well, answers that question. Okay, so there's a panel. This is a pretty thick, heavy gauge steel here. This thing's got some weight to it. Now that exposes the back of these SSD cages, so it makes it a lot easier to get to these. Now you can just reach in the front, take these off, and this is where you would attach your 2.5-inch SSD, and there are 2 of these available. And the rest of this looks like it is riveted in, so there's really nothing else we can take apart here. And I think this part of the chassis for the radiator, this is also... Oh, wait a minute, there's actually a screw right here, so it looks like the frame for the radiator mount comes out. Yeah. Whoops. It falls out. Okay. So you could get your radiator mounted to this, or you could just leave it out altogether, I guess, if you wanted to. So here's how this comes out again. You can see it really opens things up, so when you're doing your system build, you've got access to pretty much every corner of the case. Okay, so I guess I will leave these apart for now. Actually, it makes it a little easier to see what's going on inside here. And there's actually another panel back here. Let's see, it looks like this comes out. So this is the access for your hard drives. If you put 3.5-inch hard drives in, you've got 2 bays back here. These are your plastic hard drive trays. So you would secure your hard drive to that, slide those in. And then we've got a nice little plastic hardware box here. And let's see what we've got in there. This is nice. They give you this little tray. Okay, so we've got a handful of wire ties. There is also, oh, this is nice. So this is used to, let's see, attach. I'll have to see exactly where this goes. So it's got your connectors that go to your motherboard. So there's probably another cable here. Let me see. Yeah, this says F panel and this says F panel here. So this connects. So this will be a nice way to connect your motherboard to your I/O. That's pretty cool. We've got miscellaneous. These little look like they've got a really aggressive thread pitch there, so it makes it just a real quick, looks like a half turn. And we'll see where those actually go. We've got some small, looks like some smaller screws for mounting your 2.5-inch SSDs, some washers, and these are probably motherboard screws here. Yeah, those look like motherboard screws. Actually, got 2 little compartments. So motherboard screws, and it looks like hard drive, 3.5-inch hard drive screws. So they've got you pretty much covered. Oh, and there's one little standoff there. Okay, so let's see. Oh, this is nice. So you got the little dividers here, so you can actually make more compartments in this nice little carrying case. Okay, so let's see. We looked at this. It looks like this. Actually, now that I look at it, we got 2 more screws here. I'll bet if I take these out, that will take out this entire 3.5-inch hard drive cage. Yep. Lifts it right out of there. So you could leave this all open if you wanted to. If you weren't going to put any 3.5-inch hard drives in, you could just take this out and leave it out. Whoops, so let me set this off to the side. And boy, just when I think I've taken everything apart, something else pops up. Okay, so down here, this is for your power supply. So what they do is they give you a nice way to connect this mounting bracket to the power supply. And when I get a power supply in here, we'll see how this goes. So it's kind of deceiving. This case looks pretty simple, and it is, but there's actually quite a bit going on here with all the brackets. Okay, so there's the back of the case with everything removed except, let's see what else. Oh, that's another thing. You can actually, earlier I mentioned that there wasn't a provision for a vertical GPU mount. I'll show it here in a little bit. You can go onto the, the Corsair accessory page, and they actually have a panel. So you pop this panel out, and there's a new panel that comes in, and it has a provision for a vertical GPU, which is pretty cool. And let's see, this is your cable, I/O cable group. So, okay, so we've got a USB header. It's got 2 cables on that, so those are for your USB on the front there. This is your audio, and this is that F panel that I showed earlier for your connector for your motherboard, power reset, and power LED. And then we've got your final USB connector, and that is it. So let me coil these back up for now. Okay, now that we've got the back of the case all opened up here, what is really nice is the way they do the dual chamber design. So this entire area here is just perfect. It's so deep and so nice for all of your cable management. So you can really stash everything in here, hide it, and keep it from getting in the way. And we've got some nice grommets back here along the side, again, to help hide the openings there for your cables that will pass through. And normally I would show something like this at the beginning. I was looking for a quick start guide or a user manual to be included in the box or in the case, and then sometimes they have a link on the website. But what they're doing now is they're actually putting a QR code here on the box flap, and in all the excitement of getting it out of the box, I completely overlooked it. So you can see you've got it here in a couple of different languages, but anyway, you've got your 2500D airflow, the 2500X, and the IQ 2500X RGB. So anyway, that's what you want to scan to get to your quick start guide. And after you scan that QR code, it takes you to this link right here, this page. And this is your quick start guide. So everything you need to know. And over here on the left, you've got each heading. So if I click on one of these, it'll take me directly to that section, which makes it really quick and easy. So you don't have to scroll through everything. But I will do a real quick scroll through here so you can see what's going on. So there's some case dimensions, the accessory kit. These are those funky screws with the aggressive thread I showed earlier. They call them quick turn fan screws. That's what those are. So past the hardware kit, you've got the expanded view showing all of the panels and what each panel is called, how to remove the panels, motherboard installation. You can see it's either a mini ITX or a micro ATX. For this particular case style, there's that little connector here that I was showing earlier right there. It's called a, let's see, F panel. Let's see if we keep on going here. Front panel explanation. So there's your I/O on the top. Adding PCI devices. Graphics card. Installing a radiator. Installing fans. Power supply. Corsair Shift Series power supply. So it looks like you've got your I/O here. Instead of coming out the back of the power supply, it's actually on the side. That's interesting. I'll have to check one of those out. Let's see, solid state drives, hard drives, how to clean the filters, cable management, and your warranty. So everything you need is right here when you scan that QR code. And again, you can do a real quick access to all your topics. All right. Okay, so we got all of the quick start guide details out of the way there. And now it is time to do a system build. Now I've got an old, very old micro ATX motherboard. I need to get a more modern, updated one. But this one will do for this system build. I just want to show what the case looks like when you've got all of the components installed and it's all dressed out. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I am off to a good start. There's my old, original, almost antique Asus Maximus 4 Gen Z motherboard. It's the only micro ATX that I've got. But, like I said, I think it'll get the job done. And I think I'll get the radiator over there on the side, so I'll continue to get the rest of the components installed. All right, continuing on here, I've got the fans attached to the radiator and it's tucked back in the corner there. You can see the solid state drive also just sort of sitting there. I don't have it attached just yet. And the cooler I'm using, this is an H100i Pro from Corsair, and underneath the pump there is an old 2600K. It was my old workhorse processor from many years ago. Still works just fine. For a power supply, I actually wanted to use my Corsair HX850. However, it is in service in another system and I can't really tear it apart or tear it down at this point, so I'm going to run with this Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 1000. It's a bit overkill in terms of power output and size. It's a little larger than your typical power supply. Now, it is a modular power supply, so I've got more cables than I need. I may or may not disconnect the ones I don't need, but the nice thing is I've got plenty of space here for cable management. I can just coil those up and stuff them up here in the top. Since I'm not going to be using any 3.5-inch hard drives, this area here will be open, which makes it even easier for stashing cables. And one quick thing to point out, and it's not a big deal because one, I'm using a liquid cooler, and two, we've got a lot of room here between the top of the motherboard and the case. But in a shallow case, where there's not a lot of room here at the top, you need to make sure you get this power connector, sometimes there's more than one, connected before you get your system build really rolling. Now again, since I'm using a liquid cooler, it's not a big deal. It's real easy to plug this in after the fact. But if I had a large air cooler like this A115, for example, if you had that in there and then you realize you forgot to plug this in, well, it can be pretty hard to get your hand in there to get that plugged in, and then you have to take your cooler off, and it's just a pain in the neck that you can avoid if you get this connector plugged in ahead of time. But again, in this case, we don't really have a problem because there's a lot of room here at the top, and I'm using a liquid cooler. Now, since this does not come with a well, with any fans, I'm adding this old Corsair fan here for the rear exhaust. And these are those special screws here I showed earlier. They've got the really aggressive threads so that it just takes a very short twist. Once you get the screw started there and you just do, what is that, about not even a full turn, half turn, and they go right in. Now the next thing, I've got this 4080 Super graphics card, but you can see it's not quite fitting all the way in the slot at the front, and that's because the front of the card here, it's a little hard to see. The front of the card, the little tabs at the bottom of the slots here, they're not engaging, and I'll show you why. Now fortunately, on this case, we've got this panel here that can be removed, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So the card here, you can see when you're trying to install it, these should actually tuck behind this piece, and that's why we're having a problem. So let's see if I can get those in there. It's actually going to take two hands, so let me put the camera back in the tripod. There, much better. Now you can see what's going on. So the graphics card here, all of these tabs have to tuck behind there, and then the slot will be fully engaged. But I need to get this plate back in so that we can get this installed properly, because we don't want to let the weight of the graphics card put too much stress on that slot. So let me go ahead and get this connected, and then we'll get, let's see, one of these in there, at least one. See if I can get that in there. It's a little tricky getting everything lined up and getting the screws started, but it is very important to get these get these secured. There we go. All right, there's at least one more that goes in there. So now the card is good and secure. Actually, I gotta get this top one in there. There we go. Okay, I'm just about ready to power it up. I've got everything assembled. And looking at the back here as far as cable management goes, I could have spent a little more time cleaning this up, but the good thing is there is plenty of room. And I think even if I put the hard drive cage back in here, there's still room, even though this is a larger or a longer power supply. I'm not really worried about getting the back cover to close. You know, sometimes you have so much stuff crammed in there, you can try to get the side cover on and it just bulges out in the middle, and you just hope you don't have to get back in there again, because you know it's going to be quite challenging getting the back cover on there. So I'll start getting the case reassembled here, and then I'll get it powered up. Okay, it is all powered up, and I've got the side panel off here because of the reflection on the glass. You can't really see what's going on inside. So even with that old antique motherboard in there, it still looks good in this case. A few things that kind of stand out to me. One is the fit and form and the quality of materials. Everything just fits together. Even after I've taken everything apart and put it back together, all of the joints and seams and places where panels come together, it still is top-notch. The next thing is one of the concerns, especially on a smaller case, if you're using a large graphics card that's capable of dumping an enormous amount of heat into the case. One of the concerns is, of course, airflow. The entire bottom of this case is, as you can see, ventilated. Of course, the top panel here is all ventilated. The entire side panel, as we showed earlier, is completely ventilated. And then, of course, the back is generously ventilated. Just about every area that could possibly be ventilated is ventilated, which is good, because airflow is, of course, very important. And don't forget all the options with the different panels that you can swap out if you want to change the look of the case. There is the RGB version available if you really want to dress your case out with all of the RGB effects. And then you've got the vertical GPU mount if you want to show your graphics card off vertically instead of horizontally. So the 2500X comes in at $159. I can't really find anything to complain about or anything that they could really improve on. It's just perfect for a mini ITX or a micro ATX build. So I would definitely give this one the Overclockers Club Editor's Choice Award. So this is Chris with Overclockers Club. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.